Alrighty, so we're on episode 2 of the NTS podcast. Welcome to the show, Jack, aka Hagrid.
Yeah,
How's it going?
good. You'll have to explain Hagrid, but yeah, Hagrid is here.
Yeah, I don't really know what it's all about with the Hagrid thing. I just saw the memes on Instagram, and your beard is kind of like Hagrid's, so I think that's it. Maybe your behavior.
Yeah,
Maybe you're so
it's what
swole like Hagrid.
that is. It's mainly the swole. It's mainly the swole factor, and I've just got like a random owl as well, So
Hmm. Yeah, and Jack is actually my business coach right now, like helping a bit with content, with Instagram, with posting stuff, and like what to focus on with my business. Uh, how did that happen? I think I just saw you like for 2 years or something regularly on socials, and I was like, "This sounds nice. I'll just try it." That's maybe how a
yeah,
lot of people who hop on board kind of think.
yeah. I think one of the big factors with like me going down that route was number one, I hated business mentors. I've always hated that side of things.
Yeah.
Um, and I suppose like what was happening with my actual physique clients was one of two things. My check-ins would actually turn into business mentoring anyway. So they'd ask questions instead of like protein, carbs, fat, stuff like that, or like what's the most optimal for hypertrophy and stuff like that. It would always be about business. So my
Hmm.
check-ins would actually be about business mentoring anyway. So I've been doing it on the side really for like 2 years.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was also sick to death of seeing business mentors scam coaches.
Hmm.
Um, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about. But I was kind of just sick to death of people just paying a business mentor like 20, 30 grand and then getting nothing back from it. So that's kind of where I was like, right, okay, like enough is enough, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of like a natural progression for me. I suppose like I used to, from a physique standpoint, and we can get into that in a minute, but from a physique standpoint, I've always coached coaches. It's just who I've basically attracted. So I'm either basically programming coaches or I'm going at it from the business aspect. It's
Hmm.
just always been like that. So yeah, I suppose like in January this year, I decided to launch another brand, which is the business mentoring, and yeah, that's probably where you saw me.
Yeah. So you kind of you had been doing fitness coaching for a long time, and like
Yeah, yeah,
check-ins kind of just sometimes turned into planting some business tips and stuff, and then you were
yeah,
like, I can totally like do that as well. Why
yeah. So I
not?
decided to kind of like separate out because essentially it's like I like physique coaching by itself, but I also like
Hmm.
I love business mentoring as well. Like I like this side of it as well. I'm very interested in like the marketing aspect, the content creation, all the kind of like background stuff that realistically no one ever sees, right? Except me and you and obviously coaches themselves. I suppose like everyone just sees people on Instagram and they kind of like they train when they want and they just see all the before and afters and stuff like that. But obviously, online coaching is way more than that. It's it's got a lot of depth to it, and that's the bit that I'm really interested in. So I've always been interested in like business as a whole. It's always been quite a passion for me. So
Hmm.
obviously, alongside building muscle as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it all comes back to kind of what I touched on last episode is that like there are a lot of people who, I mean, you've been walking the walk, training for years, coaching people for years, and then you find like, okay, I'm able to coach people with business as well, right? But there are a lot
Yeah,
of like 18-year-olds like jumping into being a business mentor, never having really had a successful business before,
yeah,
like
yeah,
pushing really high prices, just being mentored by like salespeople.
yeah,
And it's just fucking up the industry a little bit, in my opinion, because there are
yeah.
like good coaches out here who are like really, they have a passion for this thing. And then there are a lot of people just in it to try to cram people in.
Yeah, I think what a lot of coaches just need to have a look at before they hire a business mentor is mainly as like what's the coach done for themselves? Like have they built a successful business? Have like what are their clients saying about their own business? Is it a piece of shit? You know, like have they actually walked the walk? Because it's a bit like why would you hire an online coach? Would you, especially if you're like, I don't know, you're a bodybuilder, you want to go to stage, it's like, would you hire, and I'll say this very abruptly, but would you hire like someone who's morbidly obese? And it's like, probably not, right?
Hmm.
And they've never been to stage, probably not. Just so to some extent, there has to be like an area of walk the walk. And yeah, I suppose like, I think what everyone sees as like the business or the businesses being fucked up, but it's like if you're a shit hot coach, like you'll do pretty well in the industry, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game of like experts. So if you're a shit hot coach, all you got to do is learn about effective marketing,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously you're doing now, and just be patient with it. It's a bit like bodybuilding, you know. If you do a bicep curl today, you're not going to get big arms tomorrow. You're going to get big arms in a year's time. It's the same thing with
Yeah.
business. You know, they're very interlinked.
Yeah, like the people who really make it far with both like coaching with their physique, like they always plant seeds and they always keep going. And it's like a freaking tractor forever going forwards and planting new seeds all the freaking time, and just knowing that months down the line, years down the line, it's gonna pay off.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of my mindset as well. Like, because I had one like sales slash business mentor when I started, like
Mm.
kicked me into this coaching thing. I always wanted to be a coach, and a trainer for a long time, but it kind of just got me going because I was hesitating, right? Like, can I really do this?
Yep.
And I learned a lot from it, but it was like real high ticket sales coaching, the standard stuff. I mean, it was useful in a sense, but it's not the way I want to really keep doing things.
Mm.
And then I had a run with the guys from Propane Fitness, like Yanni and Yusuf. Maybe you've seen them before. And that's more systems and in-depth like videos about breakdowns about all kinds of stuff. So that was useful in a way. They have kind of not the sales approach as high ticket sales approach, but more like medium prices and stuff like that. And then I was in Biceps and Banter members group, I think, and then I jumped on your thing. So like just always like I was like I've been broke at times just and still like investing in mentorships and coaching and stuff because I'm addicted to it. It's like I don't want something like material. I just want to get better. It's
Yeah.
just a feeling.
Yeah. I think the one thing that coaches fail to do is always learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're mastering your craft both through marketing and stretching out your knowledge as a coach, it's like you can't really go wrong as long as you're applying that, you know. Um, as long as you don't give up as well. As long as you're doing both of them, you're good. Because I'm sure you know, it's like I probably told you some stuff like maybe when we first started, and the stuff that I'm telling you now is slightly different. It's just because marketing and I suppose like behaviors change.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're consistently learning and consistently adjusting to the world,
Mm-hmm.
you're good. It's like again, we'll go back to 2020 and obviously what happened there. I won't mention it too much because you'll probably get shadow banned. But what happened there? It's like if we were trying to stick to our mindset there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and not adapting to that situation, no one be you wouldn't be in business, right? So we had to all adapt to that time frame, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd be able to thrive, you know. So it's the same thing now.
Yeah, just being consistent as hell with fitness, with business, but also being reactive as fuck, like switching lanes when you see like I need to change something, like because it's easy to get married to like an exercise. It's easy to get married to an exercise and be like, oh, I can't skip it, like we switch it out because I want to get good at it. I've been doing it for years, and it's the same with like business approaches, like because I was doing this high ticket like half hybrid half ticket like high ticket and then changing it into my own approach a little bit, and I was kind of like hesitant to move out of it and just do it freestyle because I was
Yeah.
so stuck in that after that mentorship into
Yeah.
that kind of way of doing things.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people when I suppose like the way to like sell
Mm.
is you have to treat people as people.
Yeah.
It's like especially with our game, it's like we're actually coaching people at a personal level, a physique level, you know. So if you call people like high ticket sales, it's like you just miss the whole point in why you're doing this. You know, you're missing the whole point in why you're an online coach. You're realistically there to change people's lives. I mean, categorically, if you're a good coach, you would be able to change someone's life and especially mindset. Like a lot of the guys that come to me for physique coaching will always end with I left with a physique, but also my mindset is completely fucking different.
Mm-hmm.
And these aren't to me like tickets. They aren't leads and sales. They're people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you come at it from that aspect, number one, your retention would be fucking great. And you won't need to like chase your tail with new sales all the time, because if you get like 2 in a month, 3 in a month, and you're retaining, you look back at this in like a year's time and you've got a pretty fucking good business, you know. So yeah, but it all stems from like just stop calling people like tickets and leads and sales, just like people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you need to sell something to make a collaboration, I guess, with someone. But like, I agree with you. Like like just thinking about it in terms of numbers and like leads and like closes and all
Yeah.
this is like, I mean, you can, but it's like, is in the end, it's just people and just
Yeah.
putting good shit out there, being a good coach, having good results with your clients, posting consistently, just spreading good
Mm.
value, and eventually it's gonna work because it's
Yeah.
like you're doing good shit. Like I learned a lot of that from you. I kind of like at least got it refreshed a bit, and like realized like what I'm doing wrong right now, right?
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of similarities between like training and business. Just consistency, ruthless consistency, freaking doing shit when you don't feel like it, really.
Mm.
Um, and like I touched on in the last episode, we talked a little bit about like N1 and the approaching biomechanics sphere in the industry. And like a lot of people are using more optimal exercises now. A lot of people swear to like RP stuff, like barbell rows, deads. What's kind of your opinion on like these kind of things? Do you think there's a time and place for like pull arounds, press arounds? Do you feel like a lot of it is just fluff, or what do you kind of think about it?
Um, I I wouldn't go to the extent of calling it fluff.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably be on the side of more free weight, not free weight, but more like of a bro approach.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big reason for that, and it's just like most clients don't have enough. Most of my clients don't have enough time to sit there and try and perfectly aligning a lat fucking pull around or something else like that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, we're in the game of basically trying to get as much stimulus as possible and then getting gone. I think once 21-year-old me would have said yes, and 21-year-old me would have probably said I need to do everything as optimal as possible. 30-year-old me, nearly 30. I look 30, but nearly 30, he would go on the fence of saying, I want my client to get in the gym, grab as much stimulus as possible, and get gone. That could mean going for a barbell row over a lat pull around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as like I suppose like what we do from my coaching aspect is we'll have a look at your gym, and then we'll just basically go, right, okay, here's exercise one, exercise two's quite close to it, exercise three's here. So we'll look inside your gym and then
Mm-hmm.
basically creates a program for you as an individual. Um, so instead of us talking about like optimal exercises, we're talking about like practical plus stimulus equals program done, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with that side of things. It's like more so a mixture of both, but more so like a bit of a bro situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also, I suppose, like very much on the fence with this whole like length and partial situation right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the data is really good. I don't like how the studies were done. Um, and also they are mainly accounting for muscle hypertrophy and not longevity. You can't really track longevity unless you're like doing a study for like a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're consistently working in that lengthened position and you're doing like partials in that really stretched out lengthened position, it's like, where are you the most likely to get injured? It's probably in that stretched lengthened position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we're accounting for potentially more muscle, but it's from a very short term perspective.
Yeah.
Um, you're not accounting for joint wear and tear, joint integrity, all that good stuff. You can't slit yourself open and have a look at your joint, right? You just can't. You can, but logistically, probably a bit of a nightmare. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that whole thing. That might have answered your question.
Yeah. So kind of a mix between what works really well for the person and like what's efficient and practical in the gym. Like if you're doing Smith machine squats, you can maybe do Smith machine thrusts instead of doing a barbell and having to put on 50 plates. Like
Yeah,
just making it more like effective, quick, simple for people.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I think a lot of it is, I suppose, like everyone thinks or everyone, I suppose, like assumes that training is like 90% of the work, nutrition 10. It's like my experience is the other way around.
Yeah.
Nutrition is absolutely, in a misogynistic word, it's king.
Hmm.
It is king. It's like
Hmm.
it's the absolute, like, if you don't have that in check, whatever. Training's you can train as optimal as possible, but if your nutrition's just out of the window, you're not going to change.
Hmm.
That and sleep is like, yeah. But everyone, the thing is though, everyone loves training and everyone talks about training all the time because
Hmm.
it's really sexy. But it's like, yeah, I wouldn't go to the extent of saying you can do anything in the gym, and if you have nutrition in check, you can probably gain muscle, but nearly, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So if you really hit your target calories, steady calorie surplus, you sleep 8, 9, 10 hours a night, everything's ticked off. And then I think after that, like if you have really shit training, then you can improve a lot with just adjusting the training, right? If you're doing
Yeah,
like 50 sets of chest on Monday and like 50 sets of legs, and it's like,
yeah. I think yeah, if you compare like someone with really great program, shit nutrition, shit sleep versus crap program, great nutrition, great sleep, this person's gonna rinse this person. So
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just ticking off the boxes, and that's kind of like what my client said yesterday. He made this testimonial, and he was like, what really helped him was just ticking off the boxes every single week for
Hmm.
months and months and months. And that's what I found with my coach in the past as well. It's not that complicated. It's just that you're always doing it. You're just always, always, always checking in, always ticking
Yeah.
off the boxes, always doing it, and eventually, like you just become this person who just fucking does it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, effective coaching is very boring.
Yeah,
So what I
it's
mean by
not
that is
sexy.
like, no, but like effective coaching is like someone coming to your check and like everything's good. What do you want me to do next? And it's like, do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that is like really, really boring phases are very, very, very productive. If your like massing phases is so exciting and everything needs changing all the time, you need to tweak exercises, you need to tweak all these things. You need like to scratch up on your sleep efficiency, you need to scratch up on your nutrition all the time. It's like, yeah, you're not maximizing a massing phase. And these are the people that the ones who tweak all the time and can never get anything right. These are the people who have massing phases. They'll diet until June. They'll go for a massing phase until January. They'll diet until June, and they'll look exactly the same every
Hmm.
single year. But the person who has a very like boring massing phase and then a boring cutting phase will always look different every fucking time.
Hmm. Well, are you talking about like the aggressiveness of the gaining and the fat loss, or you mean like the length of time?
More so just like, yeah, just making sure that rate of gain's in a good spot, making sure that training's in a good spot.
Hmm.
Basically like honestly just leaving things alone. Like there's such magic, and especially in a massing phase, in just leaving things the fuck alone.
Hmm.
Um like most of my check-ins for my clients are like, I will hardly ever touch anything unless really, really necessary. And there's just like some, I suppose, like magic in just basically keeping things as still as possible for the longest time until it really needs adjusting. Then you adjust it. A lot of people, what they'll do, for instance, we'll go into this really quickly, a rate of gain, right? So what someone will see is like a 1% rate of gain, and the coach will then react to the 1% rate of gain.
Hmm.
They won't look at the things like the context versus the rate of gain. So I've had a family bereavement. My dog died. I had uh, a row with my partner on the Friday night. I had a meal out on the Saturday night. And it's like you're accounting for the 1% rate of gain, and now you're going to adjust calories back, but you haven't accounted for stress,
Hmm. Yeah.
potentially like DOMS, stuff like that. So, what a lot of coaches and a lot of like inexperienced coaches, me included when I was way back when, would be reacting to this like rate of gain over a week period. And then what would happen is then you're putting them on reduced calories, which means training performance sucks, which means recovery sucks. So it's like it always has a knock on effect. So I've learned through coaching many fucking people, it's like just leave things alone until we have way more context and then react to it. Right.
Hmm. So being too
But
quick on the trigger can kind of throw things off a lot.
yeah, and also like actually looking at the physique is really important. Once you establish like a really good coaching eye, you can see when your client is stressed, you can see when your client is flat, you can see when they're really, really full and had productive training. Like I could pull up like 3 clients who I'm due to check in after this, and I'll have a look at their physique and I'll tell you if they're stressed, I'll tell you if they have had productive training for that week, just from how their physique's looking, right? Um, but yeah, essentially, it's like most of my coaching nowadays is like I will look at physique and context rather than rate of gain and little bits of tiny data, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a soup of data and like objective markers as well, and like
Mhm.
their mind state and stress levels and stuff that comes together. And it's like just being able to read that well and
Yeah, and
knowing
like
what to do.
like motivation this time of year as well is massive because
Yeah.
obviously it's
It gets dark. We all want to kill ourselves. So we need a kick in the ass. I was thinking like I was wondering like what's your opinion on incorporating minicuts into like a gaining phase if you're like gaining from after the summer to like winter after Christmas a few months later maybe like when would you do you think is an efficient use of time or do you think a lot of the time it just stalls people a lot?
so is that like I suppose like June until December?
Yeah. June until like February. I don't know. January, maybe.
I think if you need a mini cut in that time, I don't think you're massing properly.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a small amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll give you an example. I don't plan on mini cutting. I plan on mini cutting once. So I'm gonna have a 3 year off season. I plan on mini cutting once.
Mm-hmm.
That mini cut would actually technically look like an actual formal cut to most people. It'll probably be about 8 to 10 weeks. But again, if you have a really rapid rate of gain, then you'll need to mini cut. If
Yeah.
you basically stay, so people forget the logistics of a surplus, right? They think in order to gain muscle, you need to be in this massive rate of gain all the time. The whole purpose of being in a calorie surplus is to do two things, right? It's to basically have enough food to recover from. I'm sure you've been in a deficit and you recover like a piece of shit because you haven't got food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you've got recovery and then fueling training performance. If your training performance is going up and you're recovering, do you need more food? If rate of gain is like nil to very slow, you don't because these are ticked off, right? So like some of my clients in massing phases could come back to me with like a 0.5% rate of loss. They could be in a technical air deficit. But things like recovery and things like motivation and things like training performance are in a really good spot. So we fucking hold it. We don't touch anything until they start to notice that, Jack, my pressing is a little bit off this week. Okay, cool. That's a proxy for me to say push in a bit more food if they've got a rate of loss. But if their recovery is good and their training performance is good, job done in terms of food, right? Because then people in that aspect will try and push food when you don't need it because essentially you've got them two proxies ticked off, right? Um, so that's my thing. Is like if you have to have a mini cut within June to February, you are looking at things from I need to gain weight to build muscle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like no, you need
Mm-hmm.
recovery and performance to be on check or in check.
Yeah.
If they are, leave it the fuck alone. Again, you'll
Mm-hmm.
notice like a lot of things that I'll say here is like just leave everything. Like it sounds very like hands off approach, right? Um, but yeah, I found the more you try and twist everything and toggle everything, the less gains you make.
Yeah.
I mean, like my last split that I ran, I've just changed it. I changed it about 5 weeks ago. The last split that I ran for nearly like 24 months. It was like 23 months it was. But I changed exercises maybe like 3 times. Two of them were in prep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, just milk.
So having this long term view and like even having the same a lot of most of the same exercises for like a year or two or three, like it's not necessarily a bad thing. And a lot of times people will like train for a month or two and then panic and change up a lot of exercises and just think like I'm not gaining, so I need to change something. I need to change something.
Mm,
And with the calorie surplus, like just having a slight surplus, just enough to notice that you're having good sessions, good pumps, good progress in the gym,
mm,
and not like panicking to gain like X amounts of kilos just to mini cut or just have to freaking tighten up again.
yeah. Yeah, I think that mini cuts are really sexy until you've been through a mini cut. Like
Mm-hmm.
most of my clients will ask for a mini cut from me, and I'll put them through a mini cut. They're like, "Holy shit,
Mm.
why the fuck are you doing this to me?" Because it's actually one of the most like it's probably the hardest phase you'll ever be in a for a bodybuilder for a physique athlete. If you're doing a mini cut properly, you're looking at anywhere between a 1.5 to 2% rate of loss every week, and that's very
Mm-hmm.
aggressive, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Just self-torture for a while, just to
yeah,
tighten up something you could have avoided in the first
yeah.
place.
Well, they're useful in some aspect, but
Hmm.
for the majority of my clients, the only use of them would really be to regain appetite. So if they're reporting that they're on like 4,000 calories and they're gagging every time they have a mouthful of food, and we've gone through all the logistics of, I suppose, like making sure that everything's calorie dense, then potentially there's some argument in mini cuts. Obviously, we're not, I suppose, like we don't just have one approach, obviously. Um, yeah, but for the most part, we try and avoid mini cuts to the best of our ability, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, just keeping it steady, slow, steady, and having a like, where you're gonna probably be in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, seeing the long term view, and just
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, basically
I
that. Yeah,
yeah. Because I think a lot of, especially beginners, like they go into the gym, do 50 sets of chest, okay, maybe 20, but it's still a lot, and like they eat, like so they gain like several kilos of fat every month, like 3, 4 kilos of fat, and it's just like
yeah,
in five
yeah. I
months
mean,
or so, it's like 20 kilo of fat.
yeah. I mean, you'll find like uh, you'll find that the most productive training you'll ever be in would be when your physique is terrible. When you look at your physique and it's like, oh my God, what the fuck? I need to pull back.
Hmm.
You'll notice that your training is just wild. Like realistically, my physique can handle 85 kilograms. Anything above that, I'm just like ugh, a little bit tough. The most productive training I've ever been like introduced to was when I was 90 kilograms and above. Like
Hmm.
that's where I could argue most of my muscle was built.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like I don't really want to be up there again because it was just tough. Like even like walking was tough. I mean, I'm not exactly a tall guy, so like walking was tough. I was getting lower back pumps walking up the stairs and stuff like that. So it was not nice to live with day to day. But my training was absolutely phenomenal. Like I feel
Hmm.
like I could lift a house. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, I suppose like if especially for the young dudes, it's like it's very easy to lose fat. It's not easy to gain muscle, you know. And sometimes it requires getting up there just a little bit and not mini cutting all the time.
Hmm. Just like get comfortable with being a bit flat, fluffy, a bit fat, and just
Yeah, I mean
embracing it.
it's really not too difficult to lose fat. Like
Hmm.
it's not. Um, most people can do it. Most people can't stay in a phase where they're uncomfortable with, which is just being a little bit heavier.
Hmm.
But yeah, I always tell people like when you're up there, it's just like how's training performance? That's great. How's libido? It's fucking phenomenal. I want to fuck a
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like you have to look at them things rather than you know, especially with like flexibility of life. It's like I don't know, you can go traveling, go exploring. You got a lot of energy for that stuff. Whereas in a mini cut or a prep, um, you go traveling and it's just like it's not great. Like I went to Houston and Valencia in prep this year, and it's just like they were good trips, but it's like if I was in a massing phase, they would have been phenomenal, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So you think there is utility to bulking like kind of heavyish sometimes and getting kind of up there in body weight just to like push your bench press up and like get a bit. I mean, because when I'm like borderline chubby, I just feel like in the gym my sleeves are hugging. I'm just feeling more explosive, just more
Mm.
like carved the fuck up and just more motivated because I feel a bit big, you know. But when I'm shredded, I'm like I'm skinny, like I can't get a boner. It's like
Yeah, that's the natty trade off, right? It's
yeah.
like I think natty trade off is basically like you look great in t-shirts, training performance is great, and then the opposite if you're in a cut, it's like
Hmm.
t-shirts just look terrible. Like you just look like a normal gym goer. You don't even look like you go to the gym sometimes when you're natural, you know.
Hmm.
And yeah, I suppose like training performance is shit, libido's crap. But yeah, do I think there's merit in being up there? Yeah. Um, However, I would only categorically say that I would probably only push someone up there if they had competitive aspects. Realistically speaking, if you're not competitive, why would you be up there purposefully? So,
Hmm.
like, the main difference between someone being a competitive bodybuilder and just like a recreational bodybuilder is like the extremities of things. So it's like you wouldn't go to the extremity of like being absolutely shredded because it sucks.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to the extremities of like going outside of your body fat settling range, right? Because it sucks. So it's like, but if you've got that like I want to step on stage mentality, you can go to the extreme, and you can go to the extreme on this end as well. Um, but I think it would all depend on like, do you want to compete? Um, I'd say most of my athletes don't want to compete. I just want to build muscle, right, and live life. So to them people, I would not go up there. Even though it's beneficial, we know it's beneficial. There's no
Mm-hmm.
point in for them because they just get demotivated too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I think, I mean, in addition to energy levels and like motivate, like the way you're thinking is a big thing, because I find when I'm really lean and ripped, like I don't really feel necessarily like I look so good. I just feel like everyone else look like crap because I don't really notice how shredded I am, right? And then energy during training isn't that great, but I feel good without a t-shirt. But when I'm really fluffy, like I said, I feel great in the gym. But I
Mhm.
kind of get like maybe complacent sometimes. I feel like, yeah, I'm already fat as fuck, so I might as well just have a decent session, not a really good session today. You know what I mean? So, like, just being like, I don't know, putting in quality effort and not getting complacent during
Mhm.
each phase as well, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you can get complacent with both phases, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a cutting phase you can get less complacent. I think in a cutting phase for the majority of people, you would get too strict. So you could get a bit too neurotic with things. Like I've got to carry. So if you look at like the rate of loss, for example, and it's at like 1%, but you haven't had a new low weigh-in like 3 days, people, especially bodybuilders, they'll be like, I need to cut calories because I haven't had a new low weigh-in. It's like, no, you're good. You've got a rate of loss, like just pull back just a little bit, right? Um, Massing phases can get way too complacent. They see that they can lift a fucking house and they start to like that 8 hours of sleep then goes to six, and then 4 meals then turn into two, and their protein feedings are McDonald's. It's like it just gets a bit too complacent. They look back in 4 months and go, "What the fuck happened to my physique?" Yeah, training
Mm-hmm.
performance is still good, but physique is not responding in the way that they wanted to, and it's just like, yeah, I always say like those who keep cutting phase habits in the longest will build the most amount of muscle because yeah, I'm sure you've been through a cutting phase, and then if you transition and bring it over towards a massing phase, you start to gain a lot of muscle. It's why a lot of like when you're lean, a lot of the muscle that you're actually going to build in that off season that's actually done in that first 3 or 4 months. Why? Well, you're recomping, you've got muscle memory going like as being established, but you've also carried
Mm-hmm.
over the habits that you basically got here,
Yeah.
which is in the cutting phase, So if you bring the cutting phase mentality over, the habits over into a massing phase,
Mm-hmm.
build muscle.
Because your
Get
discipline
too
is already
complacent.
fresh, like you're really disciplined and dialed in when you're really lean. So you just carry that into the
Yeah, and that's
initial phase
obviously
of the
yeah,
game.
that's the utilization of like mini cuts as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have utilization with mini cuts to say, for example, you got a 3 year off season. If you didn't have the a mini cut in place, you would it can get too lax in like year two. So if you have like a mini cut, you could almost get them habits back in check and then go on with it. Um, so yeah, that's basically where you could have utility with a mini cut.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I thought we could talk a little bit about genetics as well, because let's be real, like genetics do matter. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize how much they matter. But then at the same time, if you always just blame genetics and just simp and think like, it's hard to gain muscle, it is hard. But I mean, some people seem to just pack on a lot of size. Like, some of the biggest people I know, they've been training for a couple of years or 3 or 4 years, and they just say like, for them, it's just putting on muscle is just normal. But like to people who've been training for 10 years plus and they still feel like it's slow and gritty as fuck, then it's like, I don't know, maybe it's a different perspective.
Yeah, genetics play a massive part in bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Huge to put into perspective. I competed against a guy in May this year. My stage weight was 70 kilograms, which is very light. The guy next to me, who they were basically doing off height category, was 94 kilograms shredded. So you can imagine how big he was. He was absolutely stacked. Shredded at 94 kilograms is no joke. Like natty, right?
Yeah.
Um, Dude was an animal. Trained for 6 months. So it's just like, what can you do against that person? Genetics play a massive role. Now, where a lot of people go wrong is that they look at other people and go, they've got great genetics, whatever. I'm going to follow that guy. I'm going to see what he does. Like the amount of people that are following like Dirk Emmerich right now and Adam Powell, and it's like you can copy the exact same routine as them guys, and you wouldn't look anything like them. That's the unfortunate approach. Is that they both train really fucking hard. They're both very methodical with how they train, especially Adam. I see Adam in the coach, and he is really, really fucking anal. Asks questions all the time, you know. Um, but I'll never look like Adam Powell if I train like Adam Powell. There's no fucking chance, you know. Um, the thing that you can control is like your genetics, your volume, like how much volume you can train with. You can control the day-to-day foods. You can control your sleep. The things you can control will dictate how you look with your genetics more so than like I suppose like I've got shit genetics. What the fuck's the point, right? A lot of people can do a lot of things with really bang average genetics if they stopped thinking about genetics.
Mm-hmm.
One of my clients, Jerron, is a very, very fucking good example of this because he probably wouldn't mind me saying he hasn't got great genetics. He's got very long limbs. He was very, very skinny when he first started with me. We're packed on nearly 47 pounds of body weight, and he looks unreal right now, like unbelievable. But if like way back when he was talking to me about genetics and how he had shit genetics, but if we consistently just had the thought process of what's the point, he would be exactly the same position. But
Yeah.
instead, we've got him to a point where we're like, right, ignore all the bullshit around it, ignore everyone else's training. Let's just have a look at what you can control, and then lo and behold, you built
Mm-hmm.
a fucking good physique, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think far too many people worry about genetics, whilst they do play a massive part in everything that we do, including recovery. We can't control it. Like we just can't, right? So I would spend a very small amount of time worrying about how good
Yeah.
your genetics are and just crack on.
Yeah. 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 Because it doesn't really matter in the end. It's just being the best version of you and ticking off the boxes.
Mm.
But at the same time, if you walk past 10 people in the street, maybe two of them will blow up in a couple of years, and two of them
Mm.
will have total shit genetics. Will have to spend 20 years to get half the same results, and then
Mm.
six of them will be average. Like it's all over the board, like
Yeah,
really
yeah,
random, right?
yeah. I always say like with that side of things as well is that um like when you ever like when you feel yourself like comparing yourself, especially physique wise, is like always look at the bigger picture of like would you trade lives with that person to look like him or to look like her. It's something that I always like to do with online coaches. Is like from a business aspect, it's like, okay, you might have a better business, but you wouldn't have the same mum, you wouldn't have the same
Mm-hmm.
upbringing. You know, just like if you ever feel yourself comparing yourself to another person, just think, would I swap lives with them right now to look like that person? 9 times out of 10, the answer to that would be no,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Because
that's a game that I like to play.
yeah, being grateful for what you have, like, because maybe, like, personally, like, maybe I don't have really good genetics for muscle gain, but I'm pretty sure I have really good health genetics. Like, I never get sick. Like, when I get sick, don't stay sick. I feel like if I get cancer, it would just disappear after a while, but it probably wouldn't. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I have solid health genetics and probably good genetics for cardio, but,
You
fuck
should
it.
go high rocks then.
I
You
just
should
find
go CrossFit.
lifting. Yeah, but I find just lifting more interesting. So sometimes I don't know, maybe it's stupid, but just staying in the same lane because you like it, even though you know you can never be the best at it. It's like that's why I think a lot of people coach others as well, because like that's fulfilling too. Just like
Mm.
if you have spent a lot of time just accruing, is that a word? Accruing, accumulating,
You
just
accumulate,
knowledge and experience, and then just if you can't really be Mr. Olympia or something, then you can at least help others get
yeah.
really, really cool shit happen, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like the thing with that is like, say for example, I had ridiculously good genetics versus like basically what I have now. I have like okay genetics. I would say it's okay. Um, which one would you trust with your life to build you muscle if you had shit genetics? It's probably the person who's been through it, right? It's probably the
Hmm.
person who had to actually work for it a little bit, not the person who's just blown up in 2 months and think that just saying train harder and cutting calories is the answer. Probably the person who actually thinks about things a little bit, you know?
Hmm.
That's a person you'd probably trust. So,
Yeah, because if you just do random exercises, random volume, random intensity, and you just blow up in 2 years, then it's like, why even bother looking into more advanced shit? Because it's
mhm.
working. Like, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess we can talk a little bit then about like the value of having a coach. I mean, I've talked about that a lot, but like, it sounds like when you're a fitness coach like us, like you just say it because you want clients. Like, yeah, it's everyone needs a coach. But then, I mean, it's actually fucking true. Like, since like since I started my business, I've always had a business coach or a fitness coach or something to just keep knowing what to keep doing because I need
Mhm.
to learn more, adjust, just improve.
Yep.
If you stop, you just stay stuck. And I'm willing to invest in myself, right? I don't care about fucking even like $5,000 or something. Like if I have it and I have a place to live, I have food and stuff. Like I want to invest that money in myself because I know it's gonna pay off big time down the
Mhm.
line. And that's kind of what you tell people in person, right? As well with personal training, like it feels like you can't get a physical object, shiny object that you just get in your hand. But it's more aloof. It's more like you just have to visualize what you're getting out of it because you're getting so much out of it when you invest in yourself and get coaching, get training, get something to become better.
Yeah, I think a lot of why coaching is very important is we're very emotional beings. So us humans, we think very quick reacting or just quick reactions right to emotions. So say for example, I didn't have a Nula weigh in this morning and I was in a fat loss phase. My first instinct, we spoke about it before, my first instinct will be cut calories. And it's like if you had a coach basically in your ear saying, shut the fuck up,
Yeah.
just stay here, you'll have a much better result regardless, right? It's like
Hmm.
even me in my prep, I would never, ever, ever prep myself. Ever.
Hmm.
Um, I would like I had in that prep, I probably wanted to cut calories about 60 times and I only dieted for like 20. Every single time AJ was like, shut the fuck up, stay on this, shut the fuck up,
Hmm.
stay on this. And I've been coaching people for wow, I mean 2013 was like just like 10, 11 years ish, right? Coming up to 11 years. I still do that shit.
Yeah.
And it's like it's because we're just so emotional. We're so heavily invested in ourselves, in our businesses. You know, we're so emotionally tied to it because it's our physique. Business is it's our baby, right? Um, but essentially, it's like coaching basically stops you from doing stupid shit at all times because it has that like objective, logical aspect.
Hmm.
If someone is looking at your business or your physique from an outsider's perspective, they're always going to have just such a better outlook on everything, right? It's like again, you'll get sit down at a check-in and someone's saying, I feel fatigued this week, but I think I can go for another week. And it's like dog's dead, mum's just died, fucking arguments all the time. It's just like take a week
Yeah.
off. Like
It's
we're
just
just
like
there.
realizing now instead of waiting 3 weeks and then it's all crashing and they get
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
like a
And then
burnout.
yeah, and then ultimately like the week after they're like, oh, I'm gonna have to deload, man. And it's just like it's just instant, like, right, I've seen the context, this is what we're gonna do. That you'll always get texts like I could not have gone for this week. Like, I feel so grateful that you have basically said take a week off or whatever, right? And it's just
Hmm.
like you've just got the whole gather context, you've got the whole aspect of it, and you're just basically saying, all right, given the context, this is what we do. This is the plan of action.
Hmm.
Coaching so important for everyone, really. I think that everyone thinks that again, coaches always say like coaches need coaches, but it's only because the coaches themselves have seen the value of being coached or they see the value in what they give as a service. The only reason why people say that is not a selling tactic is actually because it's fucking true, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and again, I think that even the average Joe who just goes down to the gym would benefit from an online coach, would benefit from a coach in general. Um, yeah, basically that.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I gonna say? I fucking forgot. Like, yeah, like personal, like I mentioned with myself too. Like when I don't have a coach, it's easier to just get emotional and just change exercises here and there every few months, or just worry about like, should I eat a bit more, a bit less? Like, is this like correct, or
Hmm.
just getting like not as consistent and not as just standardized. You just panic at times and you
Yeah,
just worry because it takes a long time. Like it's been 3 months. Maybe I got some progress, but maybe I need to change everything.
yeah,
When you have a coach, it's just like they just tell you like shut up, just keep going, or whatever you need to
yeah,
hear.
yeah.
Or
Yeah, I mean, I always link this back to the bucket of water principle. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but if you're, I suppose, like on a really hot day, you've got a bucket of water outside, and you're basically looking at the bucket of water. You know that it's evaporating. The whole process, you know that it's happening, but you can't see it because you're looking at the water, right? A coach is basically someone who just basically looks at the bucket. They go back in the house for like 3 or 4 hours, and they come back to see the water, and it's gone down. You know that evaporation is happening, but they can actually see it because they're seeing your physique like from a weekly basis and not from like a daily, I need to mirror check kind of thing, right?
mhm.
So that's like the benefits of a coach as well. It's like you're looking at it from that aspect as well, you know?
Yeah, looking at it from afar, from an objective point of view, without
Yeah.
getting trapped into the day to day small fluctuations and emotional sidetracking thingies.
Hmm.
Um, I just compare it to a fucking like rally a lot. Like I'd done it on posts maybe. So I like they're driving, they're doing their workouts, they're eating, but you're like just always telling them which direction to go and what to do in an objective matter without getting like sidetracked by a little bump in the road or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of it, especially with the like clients that I have, a lot of it is like, am I doing this okay? And it's like, yep. They're like, all right. A lot of it's like just confirmation and just having
Mm.
someone just there, just saying, "Am I doing okay, coach?" And you're like, "Yeah, you're doing fine. This is great. Keep on it." And if something's going like veering off into a different lane just a little bit, we just tuck it back in. Um, that's the whole purpose of it. Is results is basically stem from consistency. The
Hmm.
key to consistency is accountability. And that's what coaching is basically. And also like doing this shit by yourself, and I'm sure that you would agree, doing this shit yourself is so it can be so lonely at times, you know, especially as like a competitive bodybuilder. It's like you're doing this for yourself. You have no one really to talk to about with your own training. We love it. It's our whole life. We have no one else to like just talk shit about training, you know? And sometimes it's just nice to sit down in a weekly check-in and just go, this is my training. This is how much I love training. And your coach is there saying that everything's going well, you know, and looking over your physique and saying that, you know, your training's going well, you've hit your nutrition, congrats, right? Continue on. It's that aspect as well, just almost like having a cheerleader, as it were, as well.
Yeah, yeah. Someone to share your thoughts with as well.
Mm.
Uh, and with their like, even if I'm in a like period of time where I don't have a coach and I'm getting decent progress in the gym, I'm gaining weight steadily. Like I can like I think people can still like think like maybe I can get more progress now, and I just change something, and even if it's going perfectly already, it's like
Yeah.
you just get like reactive to whatever perspective you're currently in, and like not objective anymore.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I mean, we do consult call coaching, which is basically like I suppose like a monthly review type of coaching.
Mm.
Um, but that was basically stemmed off the idea of like some people like having controls of their training, and they just want someone to have like confirmation everything's going okay. So some of these calls for me are just basically like, give me the whole context, give me your physique, give me your logbook, what's happening. They're like, okay, this is happening, this is happening. I was thinking about changing this. Why? Because of this. Nope, you're good. Okay, cool. I'll keep it in. So it's like the whole time on the consult call, kind of like coaching element is always about like just confirmation that you're heading in the right direction. What's your goal? It's this. What's your actions? It's this. They align. Cool.
Yeah,
Done.
and even when we're making good progress and we're moving in the right direction. It feels mundane because it's a long-term thing. So like
Yeah.
you just tell them it's good, man. It looks
Yeah.
perfect, and then they're like, "Fuck, I wish it was kind of something wrong with it because I feel like it's going too slow for me."
Yeah. But that's where like we started the whole process, the whole podcast with off seasons are so boring. Like a
Mhm.
productive off season is literally just it's literally like I'm progressively overloading, my nutrition's in check, my recovery protocols are in check, good. And that's like if you're again, if your training is so vast and so different all the time and your nutrition elements are all over the place, it's like you're fucked. And that's why you have to mini cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just a reaction to too chaotic. Everything's too much in scrambles everywhere, and you just have to dial it in again just to get. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's a Lego game, and if you spread the bricks too far apart and make a mess out of it, like it's just more of a pain in the ass to tighten it up together to one house and just keep
Mm.
building up the tower. Like it's just
Yeah.
railing off, just having fucking trips and weekends off, and just kind of tracking your macros, kind of not. Like when you're always doing it, when you're in coaching, like you just get better results. It's not that complicated.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, you look at like the Olympians, whoever's fucking competing at the Olympia, because I swear I go on Instagram and there's just everyone dropping out every 40 seconds, but everyone's got coaches. And it's like there's a big reason why everyone's got coaches and they know what they're doing. You're telling me that C-Bomb doesn't know what he's doing? He fucking does. He knows his body more, probably better than 99% of the whole world, right? But he
Hmm.
has a coach. Why does he have a coach? Because he's probably going to make a shit decision at some point. He's probably
Yeah.
going to do something really, really stupid. So my argument is just like if C-Bomb has a coach, then Kevin from Pure Gym, who's 24, probably would benefit from a coach as well, you know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of really knowledgeable like fitness coaches who are like let's say top 1% knowledge level, like they still have coaches because maybe not their coaches, maybe not even as knowledgeable as them, but they have more of an emotional trigger, like they know where to push and pull them and
Yeah.
like how to collaborate together to make the most sense out of it.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah. I was,
not just like knowledge gains, like it's also like the emotional and the management of the communication and all that.
yeah. Yeah. I was on a check-in this morning with one of my business, I suppose, like clients, and he was talking to me about like, why would someone hire me because I'm at the same like knowledge level, and why would they not hire, I suppose, like someone else? It's like people will hire you for two aspects. It's like they know you and they like you, right? And they trust your, I suppose, like your communication level, right? So you don't have to be insanely knowledgeable. You just have to have, I suppose, like an element of a relationship there, right? You have to be trustworthy, you know? So someone doesn't always look for a coach because they're insanely knowledgeable. They look to someone to basically just be like almost like have a back and forth with, kind of like have an open communication with. They like the person and they trust their judgment more so than like being an absolutely mega coach, you know. Obviously it
Hmm.
helps, right? But yeah, I suppose like people always, especially as an online coach, they try to be like the best in the whole world. It's like you need to be the best to like 30, 40 people and you're absolutely fine, you know.
Hmm.
But that all comes down to effective communication and just build relationships, you know.
Yeah, it's the same with a psychologist. Maybe like if
Yeah.
they might know everything, every textbook, every freaking phrase, everything about psychology
Mhm.
for every species in the multiverse. But if they can't like just help their patients like uh, break down and deal with issues, then it doesn't really fucking matter, does it?
No, no.
Right.
I mean, a lot of coaching is psychology, really. Like
Hmm.
it's probably like 30% knowledge and 70% like actually just learning how humans work. Which is kind of why I said at the start, it's like not looking to bring in ticket sales. These are humans, and once you understand like human psychology from a sales aspect, and also from a just how they communicate, how they work, stuff like that. Once you understand that aspect, yeah, you're good as an online coach.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sweet man. I mean, I think we ran through the topics I listed today. So if you're cool, I guess you can go do your check-ins. But we can. I don't know. Do you have a joke for the listeners to end off the podcast?
Um. Not off the top of my head, but uh, um. Yeah, I'm trying to scratch up my dad game jokes because that's coming up.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think people should follow you. You know, if someone needs help with their fitness business, if someone's an online coach or want to be an online coach, check out Jack, Thecoachestrayner on Instagram. If you want help with your fitness, talk to him, talk to me. We're gonna be real people and just not robots. I take it,
Negative.
robots. All right, man.
Cool.
It's been a pleasure. Talk soon.
Thanks for having me on.